CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by O'Reilly Auto Parts.
I'm Allison Keyes. It's a dangerous situation in Houston in the wake of those deadly storms that trapped people in their homes, businesses, and even their cars, killing at least 7. Now it could be weeks before the power is back on for everyone. KHOU reporter Marcelino Benito.
The National Weather Service has released an official report on the tornadoes that hit our area on Thursday. A confirmed EF1 tornado hit Waller County, and it reached 100-mile-per-hour winds. Also in Cypress, an EF1 tornado hit as well. It reached 110 miles per hour winds.
It's a busy day on the campaign trail for former President Trump, who is speaking to thousands of NRA members. CBS News campaign reporter Jake Rosen.
It'll be the 9th time Trump has spoken to the group since he entered the political arena. Most recently, Trump spoke to the group in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania earlier this year. Now, the NRA does not come without controversy these days. Former leader Wayne LaPierre was found guilty of civil fraud and is no longer the leader of the powerful group. The group is expected to announce new leadership sometime today and this weekend.
This as President Biden prepares to speak at the commencement ceremony at historically black Morehouse College in Atlanta tomorrow. Some students and faculty want the invitation to be rescinded over Mr. Biden's stance on the Israel-Hamas war, but college president David Thomas says,
I think we need some place in this country that can hold the tensions that threaten to divide us.
A 50-year-old man has been charged with assault after allegedly punching actor Steve Buscemi. CBS New York reporter Derek Waller.
Detectives did not have to go very far to find their suspect because sources tell me that the man actually walked into the 10th precinct here in Chelsea to report a crime that had been committed against him, apparently unaware the cops were onto him.
Keep on eating those vegetables, CBS's Natalie Brandt explains.
Your mother probably told you to eat your vegetables, and mother knows best. An umbrella review published in the journal PLOS ONE found that overall vegetarian and vegan diets were associated with better cardiovascular health and cancer risk. However, among pregnant women, those who followed plant-based diets faced no difference in risk of gestational diabetes and hypertension compared to those who did not.
It's just hours away. The big question for the 149th Preakness: can Kentucky Derby winner Mystic Dan win the second leg of the Triple Crown as well? If he does, he'd be the first horse to win both races since Triple Crown winner Justify in 2018. But he'll need to beat some serious challengers. This is CBS News.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Why do so many dogs suffer from weight issues, skin problems, messy poops, and low energy? It could be the popular dog food you put in their bowl each day.
Cody was sleeping a lot, wasn't playing.
She was very lethargic and not moving around.
Dry kibble just wasn't cutting it.
That's why, after more than 45 years of experience of helping dogs make complete health turnarounds, veterinarian Dr. Marty created Nature's Blend. It's a freeze-dried raw dog food made with wholesome ingredients like premium meats, seeds, vegetables, and fruit. And once dog parents switch their pups to Nature's Blend, the results can be astounding.
She's got her energy back. She's running around like she did like 5 years ago.
Miraculously, she's just feeling all around better. She's like a new dog. Thank you, Dr. Marty.
Get your dog started today and save up to 54% off Nature's Blend. Plus, receive a free pack of our best-selling beef liver dog treats. Go to drmartypets.com/good or text GOOD to 511-511. Text GOOD to 511-511. All dogs are unique. Your dog's results can and will vary. Message and data rates may apply.
There's a move to protect the election in Arizona.
Arizona's election workers were trained to recognize the kinds of attacks created by artificial intelligence during the coming election cycle.
You don't want to go into a fight not knowing what the other side has to offer insofar as their weaponry is concerned.
Arizona Secretary of State Adrian Fontes calls AI an amplifier of misinformation.
We've got to be prepared to deal with people that are holding long rifles and pretending like they're guarding our drop boxes. We've got to train for live shooter drills, for God's sakes.
Arizona's Pinal County recorder Dana Lewis participated in the AI training.
I've personally locked down a lot of my social media because I understand that they can use my likeness.
Stephen Kaufman, CBS News, Prescott, Arizona.
He's the cat's meow. Max, a popular feline who hangs out with students at Vermont State's University Castleton campus, just got an honorary degree. He's been given a Doctor of Literature. Allison Keyes, CBS News.
Broadcasting live from the palatial studios of KOKC in Oklahoma City, it's McRoof Talks Insurance. I'm Rick Allen Lippert, here with restoration specialist and Hall of Fame remodeler Scott McCollum.
Hey, Mr. Rick.
Not here today is the next generation of McRoof, HAAG-certified roof inspector Scotty McCollum, but he will be back next week.
You think so?
I hope so.
I do,
I
too.
expect so. Running man Eric Yandel is the wizard on the other side of the glass.
Well, howdy there.
He will answer your calls to 405-478-1520. 478-1520. We are live streaming the show on the McRoof Talks Insurance. Golly, Rick. YouTube channel. In fact,
what's going on today?
You gotta forgive Rick. We didn't expect to be here today. This is a little impromptu, so it's kind of like.
Yeah. And we're also on the air anywhere in the US of A on iHeartRadio. Just search for KOKC. And here's that programming note Scott just alluded to. Since we thought we would be preempted today for OU baseball, and we're not, since they played yesterday, and unfortunately they lost in the late part of the game, but we will have a special pre-recorded Sunday edition tomorrow at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, a special gift for our listeners.
No extra charge. As usual, Act 1 of our show will start with our trivia question and other interesting tidbits, including the word of the week. That number again to guess the trivia question or to just ask a question of your own is 405-478-1520. Act 2 of the show features Scotty's view from the rooftop. Golly. In this week's episode, Scott fills in for Scotty with an episode titled, There She Blows, Joni. Coming back from breaks, we'll have some really obscure historical trivia. Then in Act 3, we'll have our Before the Storm tip, brought to you by RoofRx, and we'll wrap up with Dad's Wisdom, brought to you by Energy Q.
There you go.
And the lawyer, once again, told me, he admonished me. He said, you have to do this. I have to say that S&CM LLC, doing business as McRoof.us, legally operates under Oklahoma registration number 8000002, and that the registration applies to both residential and commercial roofing.
There you go.
Okay.
All right.
I think I'm stumbling today because I have come almost directly from my lap swimming. I swam a half mile.
Oh, took it all out of you, did it?
It kind of did, and I had to squeeze it in between a haircut and the radio show.
Oh, my.
And so but I got my half-mile swim in.
There you go.
All right, so let's get right to our trivia question. Do you want to read it off the paper there, Scott?
Absolutely, I'll do it. So what is CertainTeed's wind speed warranty on a shingle roof installed by McRoof or a credentialed CertainTeed contractor?
Okay, and we're looking for the wind speed that the shingle is winds up to this amount. It's
correct.
Covered.
That's
over
correct.
That amount, you're on your own.
There you go.
But it's
on up there.
It's on up there.
Yeah, it's on up there.
There's actually another portion of this that has to do with a really big wind event that happens if
where are you going with this? You're talking about the equivalent of an EF rating? Is that what you're getting
something
at?
like that?
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so if you don't know the miles per hour, I will accept the EF rating that would be the equivalent of that miles per hour for CertainTeed's wind warranty. And let's do it that way.
Okay, and folks, they configured the scale. All of a sudden, I've forgotten what the
Fujitsu.
And it's no longer F1234. It's EF because it's really not based on wind speed. It's based on damage.
There you go. Yeah,
But the damage
equivalent.
from wind speed.
And you started at a 0 and then a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And 5, yeah.
There you go.
Okay, so our word of the week. While we're waiting, let me just give the phone number again. If you think you know what the wind speed warranty from CertainTeed is on a shingle installed by McRoof or any credentialed CertainTeed credentialed contractor, give us a call, 405-478-1520. The winner will get 2 free tickets to a Carpenter Square production this season. The show that opened last night runs for a month, and then we have one more show after that. And the show that opened last night, really funny, a funny story set in the early days of the Civil War about an escaped slave.
Okay.
And it's funny.
And what was the name of it? Yeah, we were talking about how could something. Yeah.
It's called Ben Butler, named after the general of Fort Monroe, an actual general in an actual fort. This event actually happened.
Okay.
Of course, we don't know what the dialogue was in his office, but we can assume, and that's what the playwright has done. And it's a very smart, intelligent script that will get you thinking.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds fun.
So 478-1520, 405-478-1520. What's our word of the week, Scott?
Okay, well, as I will often do, I try to tie elements of the show together. So the word of the week this week relates to both our trivia question and relates to our view from the rooftop.
Oh, good.
Okay. So the word of the week this week is adhesion or adherence.
Okay.
The action or state of adhering, the abnormal union of separate tissue surfaces by new fibrous tissues from an inflammatory process, all those kinds of things. What we're talking about adhesion is we're talking about what keeps your asphalt shingle roof on your roof. Okay. That is the adhesion, and manufacturers have different processes that they use to enhance the adhesion capabilities or the sealing capabilities of their asphalt shingle roofs. So the better the adhesion, it would logically follow that the more that manufacturer, the higher wind speed that manufacturer would be apt to warrant.
Okay.
Therefore, CertainTeed's warranty is very high, miles per hour wind, based on the fact that they have excellent adhesion in their asphalt shingles.
Would it be an insult to sort of dumb down adhesion to say
go right ahead.
stickiness?
Stickiness, yeah. Stickiness. I think in our recorded show for tomorrow, I talked about a roof that I was on last week up in O'Keene.
Yeah.
And I told you that this roof was installed, 3 years ago. And they had basically tornado-level winds that had gone through there a week or so ago in one of the larger storms. And so I had gone up to do an inspection on this roof. I was inspecting for hail. The gentleman thought that he might have some hail damage because there were some ping-pong-sized hail balls in there. So I was inspecting for hail, but what I was really looking for is I wanted to see how well that roof had adhered. I wanted to see how good the adhesion of that roof was.
If it was still stuck to the
literally, I'm sitting here and I'm going to a tab of a shingle and I'm trying with my thumb to see if I can pick it up. And I would have had to have gone back to my truck and gotten my pry bar to be able to have lifted a single shingle on that roof.
Oh my goodness!
It was.
And this was one of those Class 4 impact resistant roofs.
Yeah, this was the Northgate.
The Northgate, yeah.
The modified SBS, the modified asphalt polymer, Northgate Class 4. And, maybe they had 1.25 1.5 inch hail. There wasn't a mark anywhere on that roof, of course. We tell people that shingle is going to take, it's going to take something in excess of 2 inches to even touch that shingle.
Is this the gentleman who was asking you why all of his neighbors were getting their roofs done, and he wasn't?
He actually did. He asked me, he says, well, how come there's all these signs up and down my street? And of course it's O'Keene, so it's not like there are millions of signs, but there are a few signs up and down his street. And it's all one roofing company, so it's obvious that this roofing company had sent someone out, had seen that the hail had fallen at this location, had sent someone out, and had told people that they had significant hail damage or enough hail damage that they needed to file a claim with their insurance company. Planted a sign in there, we call it planting signs.
Sure.
Planted a sign in their front yard, hoping that some of the neighbors will call and things like that. So we had the conversation. It's somebody knocks on a door and maybe gets up on the roof and does a little inspection and comes back down and tells you, hey, you got hail damage, you need to file an insurance claim. What the conversation between me and my client were the other day was, any of your friends and neighbors or any of your people at church or whatever that come to you and say, hey, so-and-so told me that I probably needed to file an insurance claim for that hail damage, he's going to say to them, why don't you get my roofer to send someone out to inspect before you file that hail claim?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We talk about that an inspection is, most roofers, even though they say that they perform inspections, they're not roof inspectors. They're roof salesmen.
Exactly.
And so their objective is to tell you that you need to file a claim, meet an adjuster out there, and hope that they can get something paid for that they can make some money off
Buffalo the inspector into buying a roof.
Yeah,
hey, I just had a thought when you were talking about the signs being planted on this street. How about if you had signs to plant in your customers' yards that say, I don't need a new roof because I have a McRoof?
That's funny, Rick, because we've never done it, but we have talked about that for a few years where, hey, when all these people are in there banging on doors telling people they need to file an insurance claim, and we've been out to inspect our customers' roofs, we're looking at roofs behind and next door, and we can see the damage on them. Put a sign up that says exactly that. My McRoof does not need to be replaced. Call so-and-so.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or my Class 4 Certainty Northgate shingle roof by McRoof doesn't need to be replaced.
Yeah.
Call McRoof.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we've talked about this forever. When I came to Oklahoma, and of course you were one of my first customers, we were talking about the fact that a lot of people in the industry were very reticent about selling impact-resistant roofs. I still hear people to this day that just blows my mind, because I'm thinking, how deep in the sand have you had your head for the last 15 or 20 years? I still hear people today say, oh, Class 4 impact-resistant shingles do not do what they're supposed to do. And I just, it blows my mind.
Yeah.
It absolutely blows my mind. So,
hey, before we go to break, I want to bring up the fact that it's always a national day of one thing or another.
Okay.
And I love it when there's food related. Today is National Cheese Souffle Day.
Oh, wow.
Now, a couple of these I'm not so hip about. National No Dirty Dishes Day.
Yeah.
And National Visit Your Relatives Day. Taken together, I'd rather just stay home.
I think I'd wash the dishes.
Yeah, if I'd given a choice. It's also National Learn to Swim Day. And
hey, there
I think
you go.
that is
you were that's a great one.
That is a great one. And I subsidized my grandkids' swimming lessons over a number of summers.
There you go.
And it's also National HIV Vaccine Awareness Day.
Okay.
And then there's one very important one. It is Armed Forces Day, the third Saturday in May.
Very good.
Armed Forces
Very
Day.
Good.
All right. So I want to remind everybody that you can hear us on the iHeartRadio app anywhere in the U.S. of A. Just look for KOKC, and then you can find us. It simulcast live. And again, we're live streaming on our YouTube channel, McRoof Talks Insurance. And let's go ahead and take our break now. When we come back, we're still taking your calls for the trivia question: what is CertainTeed's wind speed warranty on a shingle installed by McRoof? I'm Rick Allen Lippert. We're live in studio here with restoration specialist and Hall of Fame remodeler Scott McCollum. We'll be taking your calls, 405-478-1520, when we come right back after this.
This is the home of talk radio's new generation, KOKC.
I'm Scott McCollum, and I am McRoof. Don't let that big out-of-pocket expense on your roof claim stand between you and the new roof that you want and need. I'll finance your deductible, non-recoverable depreciation, or your upgrades over 12 to 24 months. No third-party financing, no hassle, in-house financing by McRoof. Call Carly today at 855-766-3405 for details. McRoof.us, where every replacement is a replacement done right.
Homer Stacy was a wholesome, good American kid from Texas. At the age of 18, he enlisted in the United States Army and was stationed at Fort Bliss, Texas. Homer was fascinated with aircraft, so he went to flight school and became an Army Air Corps pilot. Homer Stacy was the pilot of a Convair B-24 Liberator, the Yankee Doodle Dandy. November 11, 1943, Homer and his crew, along with 31 other bombers, flew a mission to destroy a ball bearing plant in occupied France. On the return trip, a mechanical failure caused the plane to drop out of formation, leaving the Yankee Doodle Dandy vulnerable, and shortly thereafter, 7 German Me-109 shot the plane down near Andano, Italy. 4 crew members were killed on board. The others parachuted. 1 was captured and taken prisoner. Homer was among the remaining 5 who made it to Switzerland and returned to duty. Homer Stacy survived World War II, the Korean War, and retired after 21 years of service with numerous awards and citations, not to mention the Purple Heart. Homer Stacy. Homer Stacy McCollum. Scott McCollum's dad. Scott McCollum is McRoof. McRoof is owned and operated by the McCollum family, an honorable, trustworthy red, white, and blue family. If you want to improve or repair your property, call 855-766-3405. Ask for a no-cost roof assessment and home inspection. That's McRoof, 855-766-3405. That's McRoof.
Folks, if you're looking for somebody to inspect, repair, or maintain your asphalt shingle or low-slope commercial roof, think Roof RX. Think you have damage on that roof? Let's find out for sure. Call Carly today at 405-877-7663. She'll schedule your inspection by one of my credentialed qualified inspectors. These are not roof salespeople trying to sell you a roof. They're there to identify any issues that you may have and solve your problems if you have any. If you need repairs, they'll provide an estimate and written scope of work, and any repairs carry a lifetime workmanship warranty. If maintenance is your issue, they'll provide a maintenance proposal that will ensure the lasting performance of your roof system. If you need to file an insurance claim for a new roof, they'll walk you through that process and be present to point out the damage when the adjuster comes out. Inspect, repair, and maintain. That's Roof RX by McRoof. Call Carly today at 405-877-7663.
Talk radio's new generation, KOKC.
And McRoof Talks Insurance back on the air for Act 2 of today's show. I'm Rick Allen Lippert. We're live in studio with restoration specialist and Hall of Fame remodeler Scott McCollum. On this date in 1652, Rhode Island enacted the first law declaring slavery illegal. Good for Rhode Island. 1652. Fast forward over 300 years to 1980, and the eruption of Mount St. Helens in Washington state triggered the largest landslide in history, killing 57 people, causing over $1 billion in damage. And then on this date in 1970, the Beatles released their last album. On this date, it released it in the U.S. And the Mother Mary that Paul is singing about is his own mother. You know, I played this song at my father's funeral.
You did?
I did.
Huh.
Right after Ave Maria, and the deacon stuck around for Ave Maria, and when the Beatles started, he left. Okay, so, hey, our old friend Benny is on the phone. Benny, I was wondering if you were ever going to call back.
Well, I remember I've been in and out of town a lot on family things, so don't have the capability of catching your program on those Saturdays.
Okay.
And then a couple of other times frankly, I faded out last Saturday and was taking an unplanned nap and missed the program.
The best kind.
Yeah, that's good.
Hey, you want to give us a shot at
the... talk about the horror story, and I missed it. So.
Well, we haven't done it yet, but and we don't do horror story anymore. We do the view from the rooftop, and and it'll be a good one today. Do you want to take a shot at the trivia question?
I sure do. I'm desperately trying to improve my batting average here.
Okay.
And
well, so let me look for those who just tuned in. The trivia question is: what is CertainTeed's wind speed warranty on a shingle installed by McRoof or any CertainTeed credentialed contractor?
Well, since they offer the impact-resistant shingle and it's heavier duty and all, I would say the wind speed is elevated too, so I'm going to swing at 130 miles an hour.
Ding, ding, ding! Wow, Benny,
that was more than that was a man. Talk about hitting a home run! Wow!
I can never give a one-word answer.
That was right on, Benny. Good for you.
130 miles an hour, and that is equivalent to an EF2 tornado.
Well, I'm happy to improve my batting average. I'm back up to one in a row.
There you go.
Well, you know, it's just like the Hall of Famers, you know, hit 300, right, Benny?
Yeah.
So
three times out of 10.
Yeah. You're doing great. You're doing great.
I appreciate the camaraderie, gentlemen.
All
Hey,
right,
Benny,
buddy.
stay on the line so Eric can get your address, and we'll send you some tickets to Carpenter Square Theater. I'm sure somebody in your family can use them.
Absolutely. I've got a long-time friend, almost 50 years of friendship, that she and her granddaughter like to go. So I give them to them to.
Okay, well, our current show is a wonderful historical drama and comedy.
I might go with her.
Yeah, I think you should, and then I want you to tell me what you think of the theater that I built.
I would love to do that.
Okay. Hope to see you at the theater.
He's not proud of it at all.
Not at all.
I can tell he's so self-effacing there.
Thank you, Benny.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys, as always.
All right, Ben.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, you know, Scotty, I'm sure Scotty's going to see Ben this week, so he can just take him his dang coupons or whatever. So anyway.
All right. So you want to talk anything more about adhesion and wind speed and all of that?
I think we've done that.
Okay.
I think that you know, well, there is one other thing that I'd like to make very, very clear. We had a guy called us the other day, and I think got a little bit miffed with Wanda when she told him that we do not do 3-tab shingles.
Okay.
And he had a 3-tab shingle roof that has shingles missing, a lot of shingles missing, and he didn't want to replace the roof. He wasn't interested in potentially having an inspection and documentation for an insurance claim. He just wanted to repair it.
Okay.
And was very put out with Miss Wanda when she told him that we didn't have any 3-tab shingles. He said, "You mean you don't just have some 3-tab shingles in your warehouse?" And she said, "No, sir." And she was explaining to him the reason that McRoof has never been a proponent of 3-tab shingle installs in the state of Oklahoma or Tornado Alley or whatever, is that the 3-tab shingles come with a 60 or 70 mile an hour wind warranty. Okay.
Well, we call that Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm going to talk in a little bit when we get to our view from the rooftop about winds that were significantly more than the 60 or 70 miles an hour. And you know, and I know that there are a lot of 3-tab shingles installed. There are a lot of them, particularly more so in rural areas, as far as a component of the total percentage of asphalt shingles. You'll see more and more 3-tab shingles out in the country or in rural areas. I know when I go to western Oklahoma and drive through the wheat fields and all the little small towns and all, I still encounter a lot of 3-tab shingles. Unfortunately, they're fairly new 3-tab shingle roofs. Okay.
Oh my!
That is a roof that is being installed by someone who either doesn't know or doesn't care that there's something much, much better that they should be showing their clients. Okay.
I'm just going to guess that it's because that's what they've always used.
You'll hear that a lot. Well, that's what we've always done. That's what you'll hear about, not using ridge vent. Well, that's what we've always done. We've always used turbines.
Right.
That's what we've always done.
Yeah.
We've always used 3-tab shingles. We've always used felt instead of synthetic underlayments.
Yeah.
We've never used drip edge. We don't care what the building code says. We've never done that. Those kinds of attitudes that creep into an industry. And then I think because we're in a metropolitan area, and you have people who are working very, very hard to educate and raise the bar, raise the level of performance of the roofing industry to the consumers of Oklahoma, okay? There's less and less of those people that can manage to stay around. But as you start to move out of the metro and you get back to more of that chuck in a truck mentality, or Bubba's got a bunch of shingles laying in his backyard, or the lumber yard bought a bunch of 3-tab shingles 4 or 5 years ago, they've still got them there at a discount, those kinds of things. But it's not about an industry or a roofing company that's taking the approach of, we need to educate ourselves so that we know how products perform, we know what the enhancements that are available are, and we know how to educate our consumers about making choices that in the long run we know are going to save them money. My customers may be paying more for a roof than company ABC's customers are paying. Okay, but my customers are paying for value that is built into the system and all of the components and the quality of those components, the enhanced warranties that come from a company like CertainTeed, and the lifetime workmanship warranties that come from a company like McRoof. That comes at a cost. Okay, but that cost is where the true value of the finished product comes from.
Exactly.
Okay.
And in fact, I seem to recall the Dad's Wisdom that will be in tomorrow's show that we recorded last week. It seldom pays to be penny wise.
Well, and another way of saying that, we kind of laugh about this, but I've said forever that McRoof, I'm not a Band-Aid person. McRoof is not a Band-Aid company. Now, if a Band-Aid to get you from today to tomorrow is what is required, that's a whole lot different than relying on multiple Band-Aids over a period of time to do the job, because Band-Aids themselves become very, very expensive at that point.
Let's go to the view from the roof.
And we were walking in the Alabama rain.
The title of today's episode is There She Blows, Johnny.
So we're talking about, we have as a roofing company, we rely on a lot of different information that comes into us. We rely on what are called storm swaths. Okay, so we get information that comes to us from a number of different sources that tells us what size hail fell where. okay?
Exactly.
And literally down to cross streets, okay? And then if we want to go beyond that, we can pay for a higher level of specificity, okay, by ordering reports that are down to an individual rooftop level. Okay.
Wow.
And we can do that for hail. That's what everyone does. Well, we can also do that for wind.
Okay.
Okay. We have wind swaths, and it gives us the velocity of the wind. It tells us what time it occurred, how long it lasted, those kinds of things. Indications as to the type of damage that's been reported or could be expected from that kind of a wind. Okay, so we're doing our outreach where we make outbound calls to our universe, our clientele, our previous prospects, and things like that, who have been affected by these events. And I was talking with Johnny. I said, "Well, Johnny," I said,
and Johnny's one of your new inspectors.
Johnny's one of our new solution specialists. And I was talking to Johnny, and I said, "Johnny, I know you've been making calls on the hail swaths, but have you been making calls on the wind swaths?" And it was just, there was a little disconnect there between the way the information flowed from Carly to Johnny, and a little bit of an opportunity for us to train around that. So we took and we looked at the wind swaths in the last couple of weeks in the metro. And we have a wind swath that started down at Blanchard Tuttle area and moved northeasterly through the metro, okay?
I recall that.
And basically at May and 104th Street up to Shields and 66th Street, and then even east into Del City, Midwest City, that way, okay?
Yeah.
So that was one swath. So what we do is we take and we look, okay, where are all of our customers that are located in that swath? Where are the neighborhoods where our customers are? And then we'll go and we'll do we'll quote unquote canvas. We'll drive through.
Sure.
We'll see what we see. And we'll be getting calls from customers about, you know, my neighbor's got shingles blown off their roof. Here's their name and number. Would you call them? Those kinds of things. So that's kind of how that works. And then the other night, of course, we had a second severe wind event in the metro. And this is the one that came in on the northwest side of town, came into Deer Creek, up towards Oak Tree, through northwest Edmond and all. That windstorm was winds over 100 miles an hour.
Yes.
Okay. The one in the southwest was winds over 80 miles an hour. You understand why I don't want to put on a 3-tab shingle that's warranted for 60 mile an hour winds?
Yeah.
Okay. And if you're sitting here and I'm telling you, and here's the other thing, makes no sense whatsoever, people, so you understand. The way that it has evolved from a pricing standpoint in the asphalt shingle world, 3-tab asphalt shingles now cost almost exactly the same amount of money as an architectural dimensional asphalt shingle.
No kidding.
Yes. 60 mile an hour wind warranty versus 110 mile an hour wind warranty out of the package, okay, at the same cost. Why would you want me to put the 3-tab on?
Yeah.
So
that seems like a no-brainer.
Eric's waving at us. What's he waving about?
Oh, just let you know how much time we have before the break here.
Oh, okay.
Looks like 2 minutes.
Oh, 2 minutes? Oh, okay. All right. So anyway, so Johnny learned about wind swaths.
Yes.
And he learned how to go in and dig that information out of the databases and the information that we have available to us, some of the forensic tools that we use, and has made some outreach calls on those, and has already resulted in some insurance claims. So,
good.
Now I will tell you about wind, folks, and this is something you should understand. A wind damaged roof is typically considered, at least from the insurance company standpoint, to be a pretty easy repair. Okay? So, in other words, it's a whole lot harder for us to get a wind damaged roof replaced by an insurance company than it is to get a hail damaged roof replaced by an insurance company.
Because hail damage is obvious to the naked eye.
Well, and the wind damage is, again, it's a specific shingle. And, if you've got shingles blown off, you can replace those shingles. If you've got a shingle that's creased and broken, you can replace that shingle, that kind of thing, assuming that the shingle's available. Okay, assuming that the shingle's available. But it is harder to get a wind-damaged shingle roof replaced than it is to get a hail-damaged shingle roof replaced.
Okay. And with that, we'll take our second and final break of today's show. We'll be back with Act 3 in a couple of minutes. I'd like to remind you, you're listening to McRoof Talks Insurance on KOKC, AM 1520, FM 95.3. I'm Rick Allen Lippert. He's Scott McCollum. Running man Eric Yandel waiting for your call when you call 405-478-1520. We'll be back in a flash.
This is the home of talk radio's new generation, KOKC.
I'm Scott McCollum, and I am McRoof. McRoof and CertainTeed are the team you need on your roof. CertainTeed's impact-resistant lineup is unbeatable. Northgate Climate Flex, Presidential Shake, or the slate look of Belmont IR, or the King of Shingles, Grand Manor. Call Carly today at 855-766-3405 or go to McRoof.us. McRoof.us, where every replacement is a replacement done right.
Honoring America's Warriors is an Oklahoma-based 501c3 nonprofit that is committed to honoring our heroes and healing our warriors. Honoring America's Warriors provides teams of disabled combat veterans in service dress uniform to augment military honors for our brave that have served our country. Honoring America's Warriors also provides outdoor activities to get our returning veterans peer-to-peer with other veterans in a non-medical environment. To learn more or to donate, go to honoringamericaswarriors.org today.
AC been struggling to keep up, or do you just keep turning the thermostat down to stay comfortable? If you hadn't been struggling yet, you're going to be pretty soon, because it's getting ready to get hot, Mr. Rick.
Yes, it is. We're going to have our first 90-degree day this week.
Yeah, that's what I heard. So maybe the hot attic is the culprit, the thing that's giving you trouble. Call Carly at 405-877-7663 and request an estimate on our Energy Q Radiant Barrier installed at your home or business. Our blanket is 5 layers thick with double foil facing with the thermal break built into the blanket. So we can install on your rooftop during a roof replacement, or drape from your rafters in the attic, or install as a blanket on the attic floor. Energy Q will block 98% of the thermal energy from entering, thus increasing your comfort level and reducing your energy bills. Call Carly today at 405-877-7663.
Talk radio's new generation is KOKC.
And McRoof Talks Insurance back on the air for Act 3 of today's show. I'm Rick Allen Lippert. He's Scott McCollum. Eric Yandel on the other side of the glass waiting for you to call with your questions about roofing or insurance, whether it's business or residential. 405-478-1520. Hey, Scott, on this date in 1917, on May 18th, 1917, the Congress passed the Selective Service Act, authorizing the government to raise a national army for the American entry into World War I through compulsory enlistment. Do you recall what your draft number was?
Well, I was sorry about that, last surviving male, so
you didn't have to.
Exactly.
Yeah, you still had to register for the draft.
I had to register, right?
Yeah,
right.
But you were exempted. My draft number was 48.
48.
48.
Wow.
Yeah, if it hadn't been for soccer, I'd have been going to Vietnam. In 1953, on this date, American Jacqueline Cochran became the first woman to break the sound barrier. And how many of you remember Fantasia, Walt Disney's Fantasia? Remember The Sorcerer's Apprentice? Well, Disney didn't write that music. That was a symphonic scherzo called The Sorcerer's Apprentice, composed by Paul Dukas in 1897.
Wow.
Great piece of animation, though. That Disney, he knew what he was doing.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so, you were talking about the wind, and I seem to recall you telling me before that there's actually more wind damage to roofs than hail damage. Did you say that? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, we the wind damage typically, it's not going to be as noticeable to
exactly
people, okay? But when we get on a roof, we're going to see where the shingles have been lifted and then laid back down. When they were lifted, that adhesion, that seal between two different materials is broken.
That we talked about back in Act 1 of the show today.
And the chances of that shingle ever sealing down again without some help is very, very slim.
Right.
So, which increases the chances of further damage and that shingle being lifted up and actually laid over and broken in a subsequent windstorm. So we're looking for that. We also see a lot of areas, particularly on hips and ridges. We'll see where nails are pulling out. In other words, the wind is trying to lift that shingle up and the nails are actually pulling out a little bit. Typically because most roofers don't use a long enough nail to attach their hips and ridges. They'll use an 1.25 inch nail to attach the field shingles, and the roofers will use the same 1.25 inch nail to attach the hip and ridge shingles.
And does that need to be like 1.5 inches?
It needs to be 1.5 inches, 1.75 inches.
Oh my goodness gracious!
And it depends on the thickness.
Who
of your ridges.
knew? Who knew? I didn't know they had special nails
just
for hip and ridge.
like that. But yeah, I mean, if you're going to ask, is there more hail damage on roofs or is there more wind damage on roofs? I think you're probably pretty safe in saying there's actually more wind damage on roofs.
Wow. Yeah. Well, and I mean, no one in this state should be surprised about that because, after all, it is the second line of the state song.
There you go. There you go.
So, I mean, it's like boiled into our DNA.
So we had a situation this week. We were out on a roof, and we were trying to do a coating. And
with a spray?
Yeah, you spray your coatings on.
Okay.
You spray them to a certain thickness.
Yeah.
And so we had days this past week that we couldn't spray.
Of course, yeah.
So we spent our time.
Unless you wanted to coat the building next door.
Yeah, well, maybe so. So we spent our time on the cleaning. We could run a power washer. I mean, you're going to get some water spray.
Yeah.
Run the power washer, and then we do our caulking and our sealing details and things like that, our rust inhibitor primers, different things like that. But probably 3 days last week, it was too windy for us to be able to spray.
And it was a windy week last week.
Yeah,
so.
It was pretty windy. So anyway,
I only when I looked at the weather for the coming week, I just noticed that we were having our first 90-degree day forecast, and then the others were in the upper 80s. I didn't pay attention to what the forecast wind speed is.
I don't know. I didn't pay much attention to the winds this week. I just know that we have a week of fairly active weather.
Yes.
I think we've got a good bit of rain potentially, and then I think we had 2 or 3 or 4 days in there that they've got the red panels on. Now I think a lot of it is going to be either north or east of us, but there's still the potential there. I think we've got a couple of days in the metro next week that we got to look at. So something to be aware of. We've talked about this before, Rick. McRoof. My direction to McRoof and what we tell our clients this time of year is we really don't want to be out there installing asphalt shingle roofs. Okay.
At this particular time of the year.
At this particular time of year. We drag our feet, we kind of push people back, we kind of ask, hold your horses, that kind of thing about jumping out there. I know that every year this happens. Every year, first rattle out of the box. Say we get some kind of storm in March. Okay, and I mean within a couple of days there's shingles on the driveway, and within a week there's people on that roof putting that roof on.
Yeah.
Why would you, unless you've got unless you've got active leaks and there's some reason that they can't be taken care of on a temporary basis, and I don't really know what that would be, why don't you just get your situation under control and bide your time to get through storm season, okay? And I'm not suggesting that you don't file your insurance claim or don't get in line with a qualified contractor or get your materials arranged. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying don't install that roof until we're fairly certain that we're done with storm season for the year.
And when is that typically? By the end of June?
You know, Rick, I used to, for the longest, I would tell you, if you had asked me that up to 3 or 4 years ago, I probably would have told you June 15th.
Okay.
Okay. But with the last few years where it seems like it's just dragged on and on and on.
It starts earlier and lasts longer.
And now I'm kind of in that, let's get to the end of June after the 4th of July and take a look and see where we are. And so that's what I would suggest.
And speaking of storm and storm season, it's time for our Before the Storm tip.
Well, I don't know if it's before the storm or after the storm.
Either way.
Either way.
Same tip.
Either way. So, folks, you've got to start with knowing what the situation is on your roof. And that starts with a qualified roof inspection. And as we've talked about a lot on this show, every roofer that comes out is not a qualified roof inspector. When we send someone out to inspect your roof, we send people out who are highly trained. They've been on roofs with Scotty, with myself. Everything that they do is looked at by Scotty or me before we make a suggestion to a client, as to what they need to do. We'll review their photographs. We'll go over all of their notes. We'll look at everything with them and sit down and help them write their conclusions as to exactly what needs to be done. We'll help them write their repair scopes and cost out the repairs if that's what people need to do. But the key to everything is to have someone who's not motivated to sell you a roof, who is qualified to inspect your roof, who understands both cosmetic and functional damage. Someone who has some credentials, has credentials from a company like CertainTeed. We're storm restoration specialists. Has credentials from a company like HAAG, an engineering company that teaches adjusters and engineers forensic diagnosis of conditions on a roof. That's the type of inspection that you need. Once you have that inspection and you have the photographs, you have the conclusion paragraph, you have the scope of work for any recommended repairs, now you're in a position to make educated decisions about what you need to do going forward. So again, inspect is key, then repair, and then maintain beyond that point. Okay, and that's what McRoof does. That's what RoofRx does, and that's the call that I would make. Everyone that lives in Oklahoma that even thinks they've been impacted by a storm this year or last year, at the end of this storm season, do yourself a favor and call McRoof and get a qualified roof inspection.
And speaking about filing a claim, the 3-year limit on a claim after a hail event, those days are gone, right?
Yeah, there are policies out there that still have 2 years.
Okay.
But most of the policies typically have 1 year. Now, the problem that you get into is the problem that you get into is when we get on a roof that's, say, the roof is 10, 12, 15 years old, okay, there hasn't been one hailstorm on that roof.
Exactly.
There have been dozens of hailstorms on that roof, okay? And you start to get into, and we started seeing this a couple of years ago, where the insurance companies were actually starting to try to argue the age of the hail, okay? Literally trying to say, oh, that hail happened, outside of the period of time to file this claim.
Right.
Okay. And I can understand that in situations where someone has changed insurance companies. You have a company where Company A has the coverage today, Company B had the coverage for the last 12 years. I can see Company A trying to push that back to Company B, okay? But if you've been with Company B for the last 35 years, don't get on a roof and try to argue with me about when that hail happened. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
They paid their premiums. There's hail damage on the roof, and it really shouldn't be an argument. So
Shouldn't
anyway.
be, but as we both know, they sometimes will argue about, whether the sun rises in the east.
Yeah, your duty to notify is specified in your policy jacket. It will tell you what your duty to notify is, whether it's 2 years, 1 year. Some of them just say immediately. What does that mean?
What does that mean?
Immediately when the hailstone fell, or immediately when someone who knows what they're looking at told you that you had damage on your roof, even if that was years later.
Yeah, that
you
term.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I mean,
that term immediately. That could be a problem. What's coming up this week for you?
Well, we're doing, again, since we do try to kind of drag our feet right now, we've got some big repairs, a couple big commercial buildings out in El Reno that we'll be doing repairs on for them. They're not ready for an insurance claim, or they're not ready for a complete roof restoration, which is what we call our coating systems. That's a roof restoration.
Okay.
So we'll be doing repairs on those. And then we've got 2 or 3 things that we're buttoning up, some metal jobs and stuff like that, not asphalt shingle related. Did get a couple phone calls from some clients last week wanting to know when we're going to do their shingle roof. So we'll have this little conversation about, are you really, we're this close to getting over the hump on this. Are you really that, all fired up about getting that shingle roof done? And if you are, we'll come out there and do it.
I imagine you hear all kinds of stories like, well, we have the wedding coming up in July and we want to make sure everything is done before then.
We do get some of that. We do. When that really comes into play is after Labor Day, and the guys that haven't done anything with it all year long, and then September's rolling through, and all of a sudden they're bumping up against the 1st of October, and their wife's on them about Christmas decorations and Christmas lights and everything else, and they haven't even started the process yet. Now, that would really have been an issue in the last couple of years, when it took us a month or 2 or 3 or 4 to get the material that we need to do your roof.
Is the supply pipeline opened?
I don't know. It's kind of like I think it's a little bit better, but again, we're using high-end, what would be considered luxury, impact-resistant shingles for the most part, okay? So those are not shingles that everyone uses, okay? But, which you would think would be a good thing, mean they'd be available.
Right.
No, it's not a good thing, because it's not their main shingle line. The manufacturers don't manufacture it.
They're not making those 24/7, 365.
They don't make them and just sit them in a yard and wait for some distributor to call and ask for them. Okay, they wait for a distributor to place an order for those, then they work them into the queue and they'll deliver that.
Oh my goodness gracious.
I think it is getting a little bit better. I mean, we have no issues, or we have some issues on our Northgate product. We have very few issues on our Belmont product in the impact resistant, which is the only thing I'll put on. We do have a lot of issues on presidential impact resistant. That is hard to come by. And Grand Manor, which is now Class 4 impact rated, that doesn't seem to be that big of an issue. But it's still, when I say not that big of an issue, meaning that we can get it within a couple of months.
Okay.
Okay.
Good to know.
So, anyway.
As we're wrapping up, the lawyer texted me and said, hey, you better remember to say once again that S&CM LLC, doing business as McRoof.us, legally operates under Oklahoma registration number 8000002, and that the registration applies to both residential and commercial roofing.
Yes, sir.
So we're about to wrap up our show number 15.
Okay. And don't forget to listen to the recording
and
show
then tomorrow at 11 o'clock on this station, KOKC, you can hear the pre-recorded show we did the other day, thinking we weren't going to be here today.
If you haven't gotten enough of us by now.
All right, let's have some dad's wisdom.
All right. If your dreams don't scare you, dream bigger.
This has been McRoof Talks Insurance. I'm Rick Allen Lippert. He's Scott McCollum. We will be back next week with running man Eric Yenda.
And with Scotty in tow.
And yeah, Scotty.
Hey, and we'll be back tomorrow, too.
That's right, 11 o'clock.
Have a great week, everybody.
KOKC, Oklahoma City.
The Tyler Media Station, entertaining you since 1965.
95.3 FM and 1520 AM.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Progressive Insurance.
I'm Allison Keys. In the Houston area, people are still reeling from the deadly storms that ripped through on Thursday, now dealing with a heat as hundreds of thousands have no power. The National Weather Service says EF1 tornadoes touched down there, and meteorologist Mark Chenard says
some hot weather occurring across portions of Texas as well, and that's going to be a growing risk as we kind of go through the weekend and into next week. So temperatures are above average, and they're going to stay that way across a lot of Texas. And combining that with the humidity, we're going to have some higher heat indices and just some higher heat risk in general.